As a broadcaster, he's won 2 Emmys, for the one for the '88 Olympic Games in Seoul, South Korea, 2005, 2006 Volvo Ocean Race. Won an ACE Award for the America's Cup coverage in 1987. Gary was elected to the Sailing World Hall of Fame in 1982. He won the Nathaniel G. Hershoff Trophy for the U.S. Sailing's most prestigious award in 1999. He was inducted into the America's Cup Hall of Fame in 2003. He was inducted to the National Sailing Hall of Fame in 2011. Gary has a tremendous charity work and board work that he does. Everyone's involved with the Leukemia Cup knows that. He's been the national chairman of the Leukemia Cup Regatta since 1994. And over the past 40 years, Gary's given over 2,500 lectures throughout the world.
Everyone to practice for today.
Just let me take a minute. I hope it doesn't start raining. Gary's also a prolific author, 19 books. One of my favorites is The Championship Sailing. I'd like to quote from that. Do you mind? And I think this, everyone, yeah, do I have the hook? All right. I mean, I believe this is why we're here. And to quote Gary from his book, excellence on the water is to be savored. It is certainly one of the highlights of life. Hear, hear. And lastly, quote, the most satisfying achievements arrive when your competitors are happy you won. I think we all can say that, and those are wonderful words. Without further ado, in the spirit of our awards, please welcome Gary Jobson.
We had an 11-year-old racing here today. If I had heard that list when I was 11, I don't think I would have believed any of it. You know, when the J30 came along, I wasn't even born yet, so. Nah, I'm making that up. I spoke at a Leukemia Cup over in Washington, D.C. several years ago, and the person that introduced me got me right on stage just as the deluge of the summer came pouring down, and that was the end of the audience, and I didn't speak at all at that one. I've been looking over my shoulder, but we have an hour. So I'll be done in an hour. We'll leave time for the trophies. Well, first of all, thank you to all the people that traveled from a long way away to be here. Michigan, New Orleans, Long Island, other places. People say that Annapolis has no wind, but as you can tell, over the last 3 days, we do okay. Maybe a little too much wind occasionally, but we like to call Annapolis America's sailing capital, which my friends in Newport get quite upset when I say, which makes me say it louder. But we are the capital of Maryland, so we're America's sailing capital, is kind of the alliteration that we like to do. I always get a kick out of names of boats, and I've seen a crew walking around with Delta, the Delta flag on the back of their shirt, which with what's going on in Ukraine, it has kind of a little special purpose because it's close to the Ukrainian flag. So very cool. And talk about resilience. There's people that are showing us some resilience. They don't like it when somebody's coming into their land. So good on you, Delta. You probably didn't plan that out, but it sure sends a good message. You're welcome. So a couple things about championships. So the first thing is to figure out who's the best crew of the year. And to hear that you have 5-time winner and 3-time winners and 2-time winners and a variety of 1-time winners, you can't win all the time. You try to, for sure, but it means that much more. And as you pointed out in that quote, I kind of stole that, by the way, from Paul Elstrom, who said you're only really successful if you win, if your competitors are happy that you're the one that won. And I think that is an example that we've heard here over this week. So congratulations to you and your team. Now, does that mean they buy everybody drinks? Okay, I just wondered about that. All the beer you can have. And a championship is a one-time thing each year to measure performance. How do you stack up? How are you going? How's the crew doing working together? And you get to test that. And the nice thing is, regardless of how you do, you can go back and talk about and ask, well, what can we do to do a little bit better next time? And that's the cool thing about our sport, that you can never rest on your laurels, and there's always hope for the next time. And beautifully, often you do better the next time. So it's a very cool thing about our sport. Then the experience that you've all had, when you go home, you're going to help raise the game of everybody else, because you're sailing a little bit better from this experience, and you'll bring that knowledge and expertise and skill level to everywhere you're going. So that's why these regattas are so important. And almost more important than winning is the camaraderie of a class, and the fact that everybody hung around for the prize giving, and everybody's here. I haven't seen any fist fights in the parking lot or anything. And I'm guessing there aren't too many professional sailors here. Good on you. I asked Ted Turner once, Ted, I never could imagine you skipping a boat for Japan in the America's Cup. And as only Ted could say was, well, it depends how much they were paying. He said, I'd rather be the first professional than the last amateur. All right, Ted, I got it. But he was the last amateur to win the America's Cup. And then often I think that it's far more important what you learn from a regatta than how you finish. And I'm sure if you take a few minutes and write down everything that went well and everything that didn't go well, but what you can improve, it'll be educational for you. So a word about Eastport Yacht Club that hosted this regatta. Eastport, for those of you that aren't from town, is a yacht club that does things, whether it's a lights parade at Christmas time or supporting charity events or having good regattas. And what a nice piece of real estate here looking at the Severn River. And that's at Chesapeake Bay right up there. So anyway, Eastport, keep up the good work that you've been doing for such a long time. Very special. So I'd be remiss if I didn't tell a story, and I always like telling stories. So I want to tell a little story about those of you that might not have ended up on the upper half of the fold. I've been there myself. I've been below the fold a few times in my career, more than a few times. So this is a little story about the resilience on the water. So I win, as Bruce pointed out, the College Nationals one year. And being the collegiate champ, I get invited to sail in the Finn Olympic trials. And I was given a boat. Little did I know that my boat, being 100 pounds overweight, was probably not the best boat. And I had a whole day to practice. People have been sailing these boats for years. And I show up at the Finn Olympic trials in Marion, Massachusetts on Buzzards Bay. It's a windy venue. I'm 6'2" at the time, 180 pounds. Years go by, right? And the very first race, 7 races, 1 race a day, there's 34 boats, collegiate champion a couple weeks earlier. The committee boat end is favored, and the gun goes off, and I am full speed on the line at the committee boat, and I look down under my boom, and there's 33 fins, at least a length or two behind my beam. I'm feeling good. I can almost see those Olympic rings in front of me. I glance down there about 20 seconds later, and all those boats are even. I look again about a minute later, and they're all ahead of me. And by the time I got to the finish line, I finished 34th. Out of 34 boats. Oh, I come back in and got the old, well, son, you keep at it, and a few years from now you might get it. And I'm asking questions. Hey, where do you have your mast rake? And we put it at 23 feet 9 inches. I got my tape measure out. How do you have? I just kept asking questions. And the second race came along, and I got 28th. Now, 28th doesn't sound good. But when you've been 34th out of 34, having a few boats behind you, a little bit better. Race 3, 23rd. Race 4, 18th. Race 5, 13th. Now, when you're in the top third of the fleet, race 6, 8th place. Race 7. I went out early before the start, and I'm tuning up, and about halfway up the windward leg in the morning, and there's this weird current shear in the middle of the race course, halfway up to the windward mark, and I'm trying to figure out which way is this current going. So I took my life jacket, threw it over on one side of the current shear, luffed up on the other, and determined that the windward side, away from the starting line, up near the windward mark, the current was sweeping up toward the windward mark. On the leeward side, on the starting end line, the current is sweeping down toward the finish line. In other words, you wanted to get to the left side of the course. So the start goes, and all week long, the whole procedure been start at the committee boat, tack over to port, get to the right, 10 degrees starboard lift over there, and that's how you get to the first mark in the lead. So race 7, with that record behind me, I start by myself down at the leeward end of the pin. I had to sail through the spectator fleet with people yelling obscenities at me like, "Hey son, where you going? The fleet went that way." 33 boats that all started at the windward end and tacked over to port. I kept plodding along, and I got past the current shear, still there, got out to the lay line, tacked over, aimed at the windward mark, and I looked at the boom, under my boom, and there, 1 nautical mile of beam into leeward, were 33 fins, and I was in the lead, and went on to win the race. So sometimes if it's not working out as much as you'd like, you never quite know. And I could have easily gone home on that first day after 34th out of 34, but I felt a little bit better driving back to New Jersey at the time with that heavy fin trailing behind me. So congratulations on a great regatta. We're going to get in, Bruce, under the wire here. The storm is an hour and 4 minutes away. There's plenty of time left. So anyway, thank you very much, and let's have a nice fall season.
Thank you, Gary, our hometown hero. We love him.